Welcome back to Leeds Lately. Before we get into this video, if you could just hit that big button down below, that massively help me out. And also make sure you check out the link in the description. Not long till present buying season is coming up, and I of course have all of my Leeds United themed designed art prints by me in my Etsy store down below as well. So if you want to check out that for some Christmas presents for friends and family, that would massively help me out as well, and I'd really appreciate it. Today's video, we're going to be talking about West Ham. Of course, having replaced Graham Potter with Nuno Espirito Santo, they're going to be a bit of a different animal to what they were under Graham Potter, where they had a lot of, shall we say, possession for possession's sake. And now they're going to be playing a little bit more of a pragmatic style of football in terms of possession of the ball. When we look at West Ham lining up like this, it's likely that it's actually going to go into a little bit of a 4-4-2 without the ball. Let's say that Leeds have got a goal kick. Darlow has the ball here. It's likely for me that West Ham will line up a little bit like this. Our wingers up in those kind of high and wide areas. Our fullbacks will actually go up a little bit as well. And that allows us to receive the ball with Struijk and Rodon. Now, Struijk and Rodon, I think, are going to be allowed to receive the ball in this game. I don't think you're going to get too much pressing from Fulkrug, and maybe Paquetá, who will be up there with him in the number 10, who can kind of come in as a second striker just for the mid-block. So I think what you're going to find is that Leeds are going to be allowed to play out from the back a little bit. But what West Ham will try to do, and what Forest did under Espirito Santo as well, was that they like to play a bit of a mid-block. So you can see that if Leeds decide to try and play into the middle here, into Anton Stach, you've got multiple players converging on Anton Stach immediately, and he's going to have to either lose the ball or come back to Struijk again. So it's likely that West Ham essentially are going to try to say, we don't really want you to play through the middle, Leeds, at all in this game. And what they're going to try to do instead is, whether it be out this side or across and then out this side, oh, that's Rodon, they're going to want you to play down the wings. And when they do play down the wings, you've also, of course, got this ability here to come across and to press that as well. But it's not necessarily as much of a priority for them to get the ball back off you quickly if you don't play through the middle. But it does mean that when Leeds are forced out wide, it's not necessarily a bad thing for Leeds, because Leeds like to play down the wings. Leeds like to have combinations and little 1-2 passes with fullbacks and wingers to play out from the back. That is one of Leeds' kind of best things that we do, is maybe drop a Longstaff in here who quickly plays a ball back into, I don't know, Dan James, then Bogle on the overlap gets it back. That is one of our kind of best features of playing out from the back, is having that ability to play that. So that's not going to be the end of the world for us, and it might present a few problems for them. But even if Leeds are to be able to get the ball into the winger here, you are going to get an aggressive press from Kyle Walker-Peters, or on this side, Malik Hadji Diouf as well, who is rapid, by the way. He will come in and press Dan James. Dan James and Malik Hadji Diouf in a foot race is going to be an interesting one in this game. We'll have to see how that pans out, because, of course, Dan James is absolutely rapid, but will he be able to get as much time and space in behind as he would against a slower fullback? Not sure. But this is essentially the way that West Ham are going to play the mid-block, stopping Leeds playing through the middle. And if they do play through the middle, you've got people converging on them straight away to try and avoid that. And if they do win the ball back, of course, that's when they look to spring the trap and try and get forward with the likes of Jared Bowen and Crescencio Somerville, who we know all too well. So that's how they're going to kind of line up when we have goal kicks, when we're trying to play the ball out from the back. When they are under pressure at the other end, you'll see that what they tend to do is, let's say that Leeds have it with Okafor. Let's hope that he's fit, and he's out on this side over here. I mean, to be fair, Farke's press conference, I'm not sure whether it's happened yet, but by the time you watch it, he may have said whether Okafor's injured or not. That's not the point anyway. You'd have your fullback Kyle Walker-Peters. He would potentially go out here to try and press the ball. but the rest of the team would essentially be tucked in like this, and you might even see that one of the midfielders as well drops in to make it a bit of a back five, and then you've basically got a very kind of compact edge of the box defence with only somebody like Fulkrug left up forward. So let's say that Leeds are attempting to play this, you're likely going to have a lot more players up here. You'd have Ampadu there. This is what potentially could be expected in an attacking move here is the way that Leeds might be set up, trying to get the ball in the box. We've got a lot of players forward. Now, because West Ham try to go so compact here and they don't really leave anyone forward, apart from one player, it does mean that Leeds would be able to throw as many players forward as they need to, essentially, to create problems. And with West Ham sitting as deep as this is and as compact as this is, you are inviting pressure a little bit onto yourself, and you're inviting that kind of overload, which Leeds can create through Gabriel Goodmanson making runs, and then you've got players running into the box at all angles. That can eventually result in cracks in West Ham's defence. And even though they've got a new manager, it's the same players. And so those cracks could start to widen if the pressure is continuous against them. Crosses into the box are not necessarily the best defensively as a team. But Espirito Santo will set them up like this so that they can spring the trap. Because if they do win the ball back in these positions, let's say that Walker-Peters wins it back, and he plays it here into whichever midfielder this would be, maybe Mateus Fernandes, that is when they are absolutely going to sprint for it. Essentially what we saw with the Forest side, but you had Elanga on one side and Hudson-Odoi on the other side making those sprints. In this case, it's going to be Jared Bowen sprinting up there. You're also going to have Crescencio Somerville, who we saw at Leeds in the Championship really was an excellent counter-attack footballer. With him and Jorginho Rutter, when we sprung those counter-attacks in the Championship, we were pretty lethal. So he's got that in the locker, of course. And then you've also got Malik Hadji Diouf as well, who is also absolutely rapid. So if Mateus Fernandes can find a good ball into the channel here, for example, down to Jared Bowen, yes, Leeds will be having players tracking back here, but all the time these Forest players, I keep saying Forest, these West Ham players will be attempting to make those runs in behind, and Leeds could find themselves outnumbered with one-on-one situations with the goalkeeper in these areas. But it just means that Leeds need to be very careful, and Daniel Farke will have identified this, just need to be very careful about how many players we leave back and how we defend. So you might see that actually in a normal situation, Ampadu might be fairly high up here, helping out in these attacks. I think that particularly in this game, you're more likely to see, let's put them all back so they're all nice and compact. You're more likely to see, let's have the ball up here, that Bogle might stay here, for example, if it's on the other side, but then also Ampadu, I think, might drop a little bit deeper, so that then if the trap does spring, you've got enough players to kind of cover in there, and with Crescencio Somerville, Bogle can then track him the whole time, and Dan James can potentially track Malik Diouf as well, creating a bit of a like a one-on-one situation where everybody's at least got a player to mark. So it creates a little bit more security and a little bit more safety for Leeds. But what I will say is it's still going to be difficult for Leeds to defend those counter-attacking moments. So it's important that when we do go forward and when we do create the overloads, we are scoring a goal to have something to show for it, which is something we have struggled with. And we've also struggled conceding goals as well. So tomorrow night, as you're watching this, Leeds United are going to have to be on their game when it comes to the counter-attacks and when it comes to making the most of their chances when we do go forward, because this West Ham side, whilst they haven't been very good so far this season, look like they might be a little bit of a different type of team under Nuno Espirito Santo, and we've got to be very careful that we don't get counter-attacked by them multiple times in this game and concede multiple goals. I think we can beat them. I do think we can beat them. It's a lot less of a certain after Graham Potter's left, and it's a lot more of a difficult game. But I think we've got it in the locker, and I will be live for that game. So come and join me live on the channel on Friday night, tomorrow night as you're watching this. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.